Hey ladies, Dr. Bill Senior here. Welcome to God's Love for the Unlovable. The Song of Songs is ridiculously modern. I mean, have you heard of the female gaze in film and TV projects? These are those projects that present the point of view of the woman, her gaze, not from the lens of a male director or writer, screenplay, but from the point of view of a woman. And some modern feminists think that this started a revolution in filming and TV, maybe a decade ago, but not so. It's over 2,500 years old. The Queen is presented to us and presents herself to us as a person of substance and worth now, the beloved of the King. And even more, she represents all of the followers of God, male and female. I mean, this lady has substance. All of us who are in his embrace, in the embrace of Jesus, though it's a surprise to us all. So women, if you've been tracking this series and saying the simple and cluttered gospel a couple times a day, I need to ask you, in your own words, the female gaze, all of your emotions and thoughts, are you beginning to see changes? Do you see what you're worth more? Your real value, your true identity? Are you needing other sources of affirmation less? I mean, that's where we're headed with this. It's not just a book study. Are you freer? Are you feeling like you love others a little bit more? Right? It's not just to study and teach a book. It's to tap into the power behind the book, to begin to see frustrated, unloved, unlovable, right? A little or a lot, Christians begin to feel glory. All because of what Jesus did and his Spirit is now doing. So give a testimony. Bill at gospel-app.com. I'll put the best on the website. Welcome to Movement 7, Part 2, Chapter 7:11 to 8:4 of the Song of Songs. Welcome to God's Love for the Unlovable. Well, you may not have heard about the female gaze, G-A-Z-E, but you should. It refers to the gaze of the female spectator, character, or director of an artistic work. So it could be painting, but it's more likely a movie or TV show or screenplay, a theater. It's more than the gender. It's an issue of representing women as subjects having agency. In contemporary usage, female gaze has been used to refer to the perspective primarily of the female filmmaker, screenwriter, director, producer. And it's the gaze that she brings to the film that might be different from the male view of the topic, the subject. Think such projects as Women Talking last year, The Handmaid's Tale, Lady Bird 2018, The Devil Wears Prada 2006. So here in the bosom of what so many, too many actually refer to as a patriarchal narrative, the Bible, is one of the greatest examples of the female gaze in ancient or modern history. It's right there in our Bible. We should be applauding this. We are listening to her innermost, unadulterated thoughts and feelings. Some really culturally inappropriate, and such honor given to her by God, the King, and the editor. One of the criticisms of so many modern male gaze projects is that the depictions of women in them are inadequate representations of human beings. They become objects, right? Objectification. But not here in the Song of Songs. She is substantive, vulnerable, interesting, attractive, and, not as much physically, she could be, but as a person, she's attractive. Some have wondered if the author or editor is actually a woman. It wouldn't surprise me at all. We looked at 4 new things that are in her toolbox from her point of view that weren't there before the King. They weren't there before the King's embrace, before she looked up into his transforming gaze, or me, or you, before we did either, right? It was the freedom to go, the freedom to be selfish, the freedom to desire glory, and the freedom to dance. That was in the last show. Here are 2 others in Movement 7, and we'll look at them briefly. The freedom to initiate and openly desire love with the King. So now she's initiating intimacy with the King. So think worship, think prayer, think meditation, right, spiritually. And the second is the freedom to give her love to another of her choosing, not forced upon her, but her choosing as a free agent. All right? Here's chapter 7, verse 11. Come, my lover, let us go to the countryside. Let us spend the night in the villages. Let us go early to the vineyards to see if the vines have budded, if their blossoms have opened, and if the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my love. All right, we get it. We know her story. When she was younger, it looks like love was forced upon her. Or maybe she made some bad I love you choices, and who hasn't? But for each of us, our midbrains establish deep, thick fortresses to protect us from being hurt again. It leads to less hurt, sure, but it also includes the unintended consequences of loneliness and jealousy and bitterness, maybe a sense of victimization and paranoia. And we saw that in her. So, king, where are you grazing your flocks, right? But the king's powerful gaze has begun to do what it does, not just with her life, but in yours and mine. We become more open to risk love again, to initiate love again, to give our hearts to the king and his love over and over. But we need a power from God to unwind that neural mess in our brains, that rat's nest. It's just the way it is. And this is what it looks like. To be clear, I get it. Love has hurt you and me. Relationships have disappointed you, let you down, betrayed you, fallen short of expectations, robbed you, abused you, diminished you, and that's just scratching the surface. Everybody has a story. And your brain is doing what it was designed to do, so don't fight it directly. Be smart. Do an end around. Ask God. It's so easy to do. Your prefrontal cortex can do it, so we're not even tapping into our midbrain. Ask God to give you his power, his gaze, okay? What's the risk? Either he does or he doesn't, but there's no midbrain triggering to expect to make you begin to want to love again and to give love and to be loved again. Nothing that I just said should trigger your inner working models, nothing, and you can do this. And why not? What have you got to lose? Here's what it looks like to be loved, poetically, to be loved and to love others. Song 713. The mandrakes send out their fragrance, and at our door is every delicacy, both new and old, that I have stored up for you, my lover. If only you were to me like a brother who was nursed at my mother's breast, then if I found you outside, I would kiss you, and no one would despise me. Well, we're guessing, but in that culture, we think that public romantic embraces and touching kisses were not approved of. Just a guess. So a brother and sister could hug and kiss on the cheek, right? But again, we're just guessing. But it makes sense. Verse 2 of chapter 8. I would lead you and bring you to my mother's house. She who has taught me, I would give you spiced wine to drink and nectar of my pomegranates. His left arm is under my head and his right arm embraces. All of that's euphemisms for sexual intimacy. The body language is of a couple laying on the marriage bed, embracing during intimacy. Such good stuff. Beautiful, wonderful poetry. It's the garden. It's the blow north wind stuff. Emotionally, it's a picture of a power that has unraveled her natural barriers, the inner working models of the midbrain, to such a love that has hurt her in the past. For her and so many others, just the miracle up there with the parting of the Red Sea. Verse 4, daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. So we're going to get into the epilogue. It's parallel to the prologue. You can go back and listen to some of the earlier shows. This begins at 8:5 and goes to the end of the book. Just listen. Who is this coming up from the desert, leaning on her lover? Under the apple tree I roused you. There your mother conceived you. There she who was in labor gave you birth. I mean, you can hear the repeated themes. This is what an epilogue does, right? It's just capturing many of the important themes of the entire collection. The who is this coming up, the apple tree, the mother conceiving you. It's a poetic repeat. The first part of it is a poetic repeat of 3:6 in the Hebrew. It's exact, right? It was the apocryphal approach of the groom's marriage procession that began movement number 4. It looked like the coming of Yahweh from the wilderness. It was awesome. It was worthy of note. And more than that, it seemed to cause the knees of everyone to bow and the heart to shudder. And there the queen wasn't even mentioned. In movement 4 at the beginning, it was him, right? The male gaze, right? But this time, in the repeat, it's not him, it's her. It's the queen. She's no longer that beat-up, victimized waif. She's the fierce queen, worthy of love and worthy of note and worthy of being worshipped, worthy of taking the breath away. She's entered the room, and ironically, no fanfare, no announcement, like the queen of the realm is accompanied by, none of that. She didn't need that. She carries the weight on her own shoulders. It's just her presence. It's who she is. Boy, she's come of age. And don't we all want to make kind of that splash? At least once in our life, or twice. I mean, the imagery of a stone being dropped in a pool. It sends out rings that you can watch. Small stones, small rings, big stones, a tsunami. Well, she's a big stone. I mean, do you sometimes feel like you make no rings at all? Your legacy. Do you wonder, I mean, my generation does, if we will leave any legacy here, if we've done anything to change the planet in a good sense? Well, apparently she is leaving a legacy herself, and not because of her as much as because of the king and how he has transformed her. But isn't that our story too? Listen, God loves you so much that for him to leave you here in this place, which compared to heaven, and what we will experience there, this is a dangerous cesspool here. So there must be a reason why you're still here. There are rings for you to send out. All right, do you get that? The simple and cluttered gospel said twice a day will help you get there. It has no power on its own, but it does point to access of such a power. The gospel, God's power, access through the Holy Spirit in your inner being. You effectively become a bigger rock. So just keep saying it over and over, drip, drip, drip. I know it sounds sort of silly that something like this could actually work, but I'm telling you this has been wildly effective, tapping into the power of the gospel and preaching it to that unreached people group, your midbrain. So to make the point clear, in a very strange mixed metaphor, the queen is both coming up from the depths in great glory, and she is quietly, comfortably resting on the king's shoulders. Beautiful poetry, by the way, great imagery, but it's a mixed metaphor, right? Hard to stage, I get that, but spiritually, it's the same thing. Do you want to make such a splash? Find yourself resting in the arms of God and in his gaze, right? It might be counterintuitive and it seems too simple to be true, and yet that's the process. Our way is to work harder, to be more frenetic, to try more things, to go more conferences, to read more books. God's way is to rest in his arms, to hold up empty, needy hands and just receive. Simple. In Martin Luther's Galatian commentary preface, he describes a posture of prayer. So sometimes you will hear us speak about the posture of the ground prayer or POG prayer. Someone has coined it. You'll quickly see why. Listen to what he says, and then I'm going to invite each of us to follow the example to kind of get into that mindset. This is my modernized version of his stuff. Here is a helpful image. Wouldn't it be absurd and enormous hubris for the thirsty, dry ground to even think about demanding rain from the clouds? Picture the ground holding up its empty, dry, and cracked hands skyward, believing that if it only did it right, held its hands up at 10 and 2 o'clock or 11 and 1 o'clock, or better, wave them up and down frenetically in some liturgical exercise, believing that if it only did it right, the clouds would open up in a torrent of life-giving rain. No, hardly. The ground knows its place and humbly can only hold up empty, dry hands to receive the rain that God ordains to fall upon it. It's the same with righteousness, right? This is the sense of righteousness, where it's the relationship with God, that intimacy with God, to know how much he loves you, his gaze. So you could say it's the same with his gaze. There is nothing that we can do that moves God to shift his original plan to rain righteousness or his gaze down upon us. We must get it into our thick heads that we are not able to do anything by our own strength and works to win this heavenly and eternal righteousness, and therefore we shall never be able to get it unless God himself, by mere imputation and by his unspeakable gift, gives it to us. Well, the power of such a POG prayer comes from two things. First, it reflects the gospel of the cross. As you pray, you're preaching the gospel to yourself, and that's a dangerous and powerful thing to do, particularly preaching it to your midbrain. Paul says that the gospel is the power to believe. Well, believe what? Among many things is to believe that he loves you as you are, not as you should be or could be. Sound familiar? He sees you as royalty. He sees you as a worthy partner long before you do. And he invites you into the celestial dance long before you're ready. And me too. Second, the prayer reflects need. Your need, my need, for this ongoing power of the Holy Spirit in us. All we need is need. And most of the time we don't even have that. James says that we don't have these things because we don't ask. That's James 4:2. Well, if you say the POG prayer or the simple uncluttered gospel prayer, you're asking. It's not just a throwaway thing. It's not something at the end of each show. This is the thing. And I appreciate the testimonies of those people who are doing it. And we're going to put the best on our website, so keep them coming. Keep note, the Queen in the Song of Songs has struggled against this relationship. Depending upon others has not gone well for her, or for you probably. You probably have stories. I do. I have a lot. But here, she stopped flailing. She's resting in his arms, in his gaze. That is what God's love for the unlovable looks like and feels like. Are you getting it? Let me know. Bill at gospel-app.com. Put it in your words, the female gaze, yeah? Or the male gaze. And let me know from your point of view, from your words. When we first started Gospel App Ministries, we noticed powerful changes in people's relationship with God by asking for the power of God to make us know, to make us rest, to make us submit. We've been trying so hard in asking for God's help. But when we shifted to really asking God to make, when we inquired what made the difference in people's lives, 9 times out of 10, they said it was this prayer that they said twice a day. It turns out that the prayer is not just a thing, it's the thing, in my estimation. There's other prayers, there's other tools. This one, I'm just saying, has actually been very helpful for a lot of broken people, a lot of hungry people, a lot of unlovable people. Everything else, I think, is introduction. It's kind of like pregame TV, you know what I mean? So at first, the make me prayer has caused some Christians, it jars them a little bit, right? It troubles them because we've been taught you don't want to demand God, right? God help me sounds more Jesus-like. But where's the God help me prayer? There's only one, the famous prayer, I believe, help my unbelief. That was not shaped by Jesus or by Paul or James or Peter. It was done by someone who at best was a new believer. And since when do we shape our spiritual formation process by the words of a baby Christian? Look, I get it. Praying God help me sounds so Jesus-like. And honestly, I'm going to confess that my subconscious habits are too entrenched and shamed and guilt-ridden and fearful, deeply embedded in my psyches. I need more than help. You know, if I'm asking for help, it's kind of implying that I'm kind of at an 8 or a 9, and I just need the Holy Spirit to top it off. But God help me. I need help. I see such radical boldness modeled by the great prayers of John and Paul and Jesus. See, I would suggest it's time for some serious heavenly intervention. God make me. Feels about right to me. And look, we're trying to get each of us to reprogram unproductive, unbiblical habits, destructive ones. It's so important. And I'm going to say more about this as we finish up the show on the Song of Songs. But repetition helps. So in addition to the simple uncluttered gospel prayer cards, we offer this Posture of the Ground prayer in a bookmark. We call it the Gospel App Prayer Card. If you go to the website, gospel-app.com, you can pick them up, Gospel App Prayer Card. And look, I'm telling you, we got testimonies for a decade. So check them out. And let me know, how is it affecting you? Bill at gospel-app.com. Well, we're going to say the simple uncluttered gospel one more time, aloud, word for word, for a while, twice a day, 45 days. You're fighting a habit, and it seems very effective. All right, here it is. Jesus follower, daughter of the Most High, strictly because of what Jesus did for you 2,000 years ago, God actually loves you. He loves you with all of his heart, as much as the Father loves the Son and the Spirit. And the Son and the Spirit loves the Father. He can't love you any more or any less than he does right now. He can't love you any more if you were smarter, funnier, had a better career, were more educated, had more authority, were a better boss, employer, friend, lover, mother, daughter, married, divorced, widowed, single, more attractive, weighed more or less, had better hair. He loves you the same, no matter what you've done or what's been done to you. Boy, that'd make a difference, won't it? You can't add to this love or take away from it. Just stop trying. This is the love that your brain has subconsciously been jonesing for so long. Now, I get it. It often feels like you've messed it up or need to do something more so that God would like you better. Boy, I get that. That's how our human relationships are, but not our spiritual one. Jesus paid it all. Not so. It's brain science. Nothing has hurt you more than relationships that have gone badly. God designed your brain to protect you from getting hurt again, but that's also causing you to subconsciously resist loving and being loved. Yeah, it's brain science. Your only fix is to access the God-sourced power through the Spirit in your inner being so that you can begin to experience the height and width and length and depth of the love of Christ for you and for others. How do you start to experience his incongruous love for you more now? Simple. Good news. There's something that you can do. I mean, we're not shaming you. It's just so simple. You can choose to do this. You've got this. You can take daily baby steps to ask the Spirit inside of you to make you know, experience and feel just how much God loves you right now. Just ask. Ask again later today, ask tomorrow, make it a spiritual habit. Then dance. Daughters of the Most High, dance. Well, next time we will finish the epilogue, and then the show after that I will read movements 6, 7, and the epilogue in the novella, just as a big finale. You know, I'm begging you to keep getting the word out about this podcast series. I mean, people can go all the way back to the beginning of the Song of Songs series, SOS 1. Look, it's for frustrated Christians who aren't feeling God's love for them right now, God's love for the unlovable, the unlovely, the unloved. And no judgment, the Song of Songs is the greatest gospel presentation in the Old Testament that proclaims that love for a surprising person, and that's us, right? And no doubt the Spirit has brought someone to mind. Please get this to them. Don't be embarrassed. You can email them links. You can put it on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn. Get it out there. Get it out there now. It's truly, truly good stuff. Our goal is to get 1,000 viewers, and we can do that. Yeah. Another favor: subscribe to this YouTube channel. It's very important. It encourages people to listen to the show. That's how it works. If there were 1,000 people who subscribed, or even better, commented on this show, Bill at gospel-app.com, you might be surprised about how many people will take the chance to listen. Send me comments, Bill at gospel-app.com. And I'll post the best on the website. Take heart, child of God.